Hey everyone, welcome to Star Wars Holocron. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. I want to thank everyone for their support so far. Today we're going to be talking about a lightsaber form called Trikata. Thanks Shin Ming for giving me extra input to put in this video. Let's begin. As we know, there are 7 standardized lightsaber forms that were created. There are whole areas devoted to specific study of battle, and each lightsaber form has its own fascinating history and set of guiding principles. However, there was a dangerous form that only a few knew about. The Jedi and Sith utilized it sparingly for the most part. In Old Republic Jedi Consular, Jedi Counselors, for those who don't know, focus more on the mysteries of the Force, rather than the Guardians of the Jedi Order, who focus more on hand combat and lightsaber combat. The Jedi Consular devised Trakata, a style of lightsaber fighting that makes use of a lightsaber's distinctive capacity to be switched on and off in order to make up for the weaknesses in utilizing the lightsaber. The ability to rapidly switch off and restart the saber might be used as a diversion tactic or ruse in conflict. When Trikata was combined with Jakai, it became very powerful. However, both the Sith and the Jedi looked down on this tactic and seldomly used it. Trikata was unlike any other movement, being able to quickly switch between turning on and turning off the lightsaber. It was employed as a weapon to confuse the enemy and force openings in their defense. Trakata's primary emphasis was on the best method to make use of the lightsaber's on-off switch. As already mentioned, Trikata, when combined with Jakai, proved devastating when faced against 2 or more opponents. In a fight, one may deploy a diversion tactic of deception by briefly switching off their lightsaber, then switching it back on again. In combat, quickly switching your lightsaber between on and off might give you an edge. Jedi Path suggests that Trakata makes use of a lightsaber's capacity to disable a blade. What made it work so well was envision a battle between 2 opponents. When one moves towards the enemy's lightsaber and attacks, he is certain that they will connect with it. They'll be able to feel the other person's pressure as they press against it. Now suppose that at the very last moment, one of them unexpectedly retracts their lightsaber, causing his enemy to trip, opening up an opportunity for an attack, and taking advantage of that opportunity by hitting them in the rear after they have stumbled, critically injuring them or offering a killing blow. This is how Trikata operates. It makes use of the distinctive properties of a lightsaber to defeat an opponent who isn't expecting it. A lethal weapon is readily created from it. Employing this strategy in battle to pull off some sneaky moves, there are also a ton of additional devious tactics in this style. A move called Pass the Blade meant they had to switch off their lightsaber mid-attack, giving them the opportunity to ignite the blade beyond the threshold of his adversary's protective guard and slash completely through them. Put simply, they turned off their saber during a strike, allowing it to flow undisturbed through the enemy's defenses, only to ignite it at the last second to slice through them. Another move is for the combatant to use the unbalanced block technique. A lightsaber lock with the blades grinding against one another was necessary. They would disable their lightsaber, removing the enemy's means of support from the saber. This created an opening for an assault by making the other person trip. They pretty much deactivated their saber for an instant, allowing the other person to fall and expose themselves. This would also create an opportunity for an attack that would critically injure or kill them. An opponent might also use the flash slash technique to trick his enemy into protecting himself from a non-existent lightsaber attack. They must momentarily activate their lightsaber while swinging, letting it extend to its maximum size, and then immediately turning it off. The saber is energized for just a split second, just enough time for the blade to reach its maximum length while being swung, and then it is turned off again. This deception provided time for further attacks that might disarm or kill the enemy. Because the individual's soul protection could be compromised for some time by briefly switching off the lightsaber, doing so was extremely risky. Especially since the Jedi and Sith have precognitive abilities. It could be considered impractical to use against Force sensitive because they could just work around it. However, a practitioner waited until the last feasible moment to execute the move so as to reduce their exposure to danger. With an intriguing lightsaber style, Trikata could prove a lethal opponent for anybody unlucky enough to face it. It is possible that the danger associated with this method is why the Jedi and Sith never adopted it. However, the theoretical foundations of the design are the real reason for this. It was a realistic style that called for a kind of cheating when under assault. To put it another way, it lacks the willpower and patience of the Jedi and the Sith. By converting your lightsaber into a weapon, you are abandoning the original purpose for which it was designed by both the Jedi and the Sith, which is to use the lightsaber's blades themselves. As we know, the Sith drew their fighting strength from emotion, specifically passion, the capacity to channel their anger into their lightsaber and unleash it in destructive ways. They used their superior power in this way to defeat their enemies. The Jedi are more deliberate and patient fighters. They are trained not to utilize their lightsabers as a sneaky and lethal tool. The maintenance of tranquility and the rejection of the dark side are central to their worldview. To mislead and manipulate your opponent into such a quick and, to others, shameful execution is surely a dark thing to do. The effectiveness of a specific lightsaber fighter is highly dependent on the style of lightsaber fighting they choose. As we know, 7 distinct styles of lightsaber dueling exist. Counting Jakar's dual wielding, which is more accurately a substyle of 6, adds another style to the list. Establishing the foundation for Jedi and Sith use of their individual weapons in combat, certain types of forms were considered to be looked down upon, either because they were very forceful or because they were regarded as impractical. The Jedi banned Form 7 Juyo due to its chaotic and unpredictable nature, which encouraged practitioners to tap into their innate anger in order to increase the form's power. The Sith, however, imposed none of these limits on their trainees and actively pushed them to explore any avenues that led them further to the dark side, unless it was a form of compassionate or fundamental to that of the light side. The different Sith orders hardly ever outlawed something related to attaining success in battle. So it's surprising that the Sith themselves look down on this style. There has never been an underhanded tactic that both the Sith and the Jedi utilized more than Trakata. Both sides of the Force saw the unique style as abnormal, and it is strange that an unnamed Jedi Consular created the form rather than a Sith. You might think that the Sith Order should welcome Trikata and make extensive use of it. All of a Sith's core values seem to be reflected in this appearance. There are a few reasons why many don't utilize Trikata. The initial justification for this issue is the fact that certain Sith considered it a sign of cowardice, that they can't rely on the power by themselves and will have to turn to underhanded tactics to win. It is also reasonable, then, that more combative Sith would think using these means of deception instead of their lightsaber could be beneath them, as it would demonstrate that they're incapable of defeating their opponent with strength alone and skill with the lightsaber. The Sith put a greater value on emotion rather than reason. They'd rather fuel their passion in a fight than swiftly terminate it, which brings them closer to the dark side. The justification makes it apparent why this appearance was so disliked by the Jedi. It was beneath the very heart of the Jedi method, since it was deceitful and lacked fairness. But this does not imply that no Jedi ever used any of these tactics. It was impossible to dispute the efficiency of the Trikata methods. Some Jedi tried employing such tactics while confronting 2 or more enemies at once. Most Jedi, however, believed that the form was far too deceitful. Most Sith, on the other hand, believed that the dark side was inherently stronger than the light, and that the Sith were inherently more skilled in lightsaber combat than any Jedi. Therefore, they believed falling upon cheap tricks pertaining to the lightsaber was dishonorable. It would show that they were far too weak for any opponent they were facing. As a result, they consider it disgraceful to resort to any unhanded lightsaber technique. Any strategy that uses this technique would directly address the fact that they were too weak in battle and considered inferior to their opponent. The Sith believed it exhibited cowardice and an absence of might, in contrast to the Jedi's view that the style was overly deceptive. The Jedi said it was unsportsmanlike. This kind of lightsaber style was never very popular. Instead of relying on persistent persistence or limitless tolerance, the philosophical foundation of Trikata emphasized the value of genuine battle and deceit. Like I said, the Sith whose strength derived from emotion rather than reason. Trikata was a very unique style of combat. It was extremely effective in lightsaber fights. However, the form was considered by most Jedi and Sith as a form of trickery. It undermined both the Jedi and Sith philosophies, and because of this, the form itself was rarely ever used, even though it had many advantages in lightsaber combat. What do you guys think about this form in general? Do you like it? Dislike it? Do you think the form should have been utilized more in combat? Do you think the Jedi and Sith views on the style were right? Let me know in the comments section. Personally, I think Trikata is a really unique and interesting form of combat. Also, if you have any video topics you want to discuss, let me know as well. I will do my absolute best to make them. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video and want to see more content, please force push the like and subscribe button. May the Force be with you, always.